Joining us now is UK-based chartered accountant and education advocate Ronke Adeagbo. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Over 13 million out-of-school children. How concerning or worrisome is this for you?
I can't imagine how any government can sleep well at night. This keeps me awake at night because in the UK I'm an education advocate, and when I come to Nigeria I see lots of kids on the street, and this is obviously part of the due to the insurgency and the orientation we have about a girl child's education. This is really very worrying, and I'm here in Nigeria now to raise the awareness that the government of the day needs to start doing something about this. We've got to reduce that number. We are the highest in the world. That is not acceptable.
But how do we reduce the number, because our budget in terms of education doesn't carry much as much as security and defense and the likes? But how do we change the narrative?
Absolutely. We've got to raise the awareness. We've got to give the government of the day the wake-up call that education is priority. In the UK, former Prime Minister Tony Blair was always saying education, education, education. The Chinese government are sending their students to Western world to get very good education. There's a reason for doing that. And there's no wonder Chinese is now giving America a run for their money. We've got to invest in education. So we've got to encourage the government of the day to reprioritize and make education.
So when you're talking investment, are we just looking at funding?
Mainly funding, and also investing in the resources in education, investing in the infrastructure, investing in the teachers to make sure they are well equipped. Because as you would appreciate, garbage in, garbage out. If the teachers are not well equipped, then the kids will not be well equipped. But even that's a secondary issue. The first issue is we need to get these kids off the streets. There are too many kids roaming around the streets when they are meant to be in school. In the UK, if you don't send your kids to school, you get penalized. You get taken to court for it. But in Nigeria, we see kids on the street and nobody's worried about it. So we need to start raising that awareness to make sure everybody sees it as their priority.
But don't you think that poverty is also at the root of this, because some parents cannot afford to send their children to school?
Absolutely, I do agree, but the government of the day needs to do something about that. When I was schooling in Nigeria, we had free education. The government of the day must try and do something about children who are from a poor background. And that's why I've got a charity in the UK. We are raising funds in the UK to bring to Nigeria to help get the kids off the school and put them in school and fund their education. So this is what we're trying to do. So if we have more foundation doing that, and the government also invests more, increase the budget for education, we will get there slowly but surely. But it needs to be prioritized. We've got last man all over the way, all over the streets, policing vehicles, but we don't have anyone going around picking up kids and making sure they go back to school. Where does our priority lie?
So what is the implication of this on the country, looking at the fact that we always say that children are the leaders of tomorrow, especially when we're talking leadership? What is the implication? Absolutely.
So you've got 13.2 million out of school. This statistics was taken in December 2018. A year has gone past. I can assure you that figure has gone up. So basically what we are saying is that the next generation of Nigerian leaders are going to be semi-illiterate or illiterate. Is that the kind of leaders we want? If we want good leaders, then we've got to educate them. And we need to get that priority straight now. Otherwise, in future, we'll be led by illiterates.
You saw in the report there's been advocacy across by a non-governmental organization, even in the north and across the country, basically. What is your organization, what does it intend to do differently to make as much impact?
That's a very good question. In my opinion, it's too little, too late.
Really?
And absolutely. And you need to get the government's buy-in, basically. We really need to change the orientation of the government, because if we don't get the government's buy-in, then we're not starting at all. The government of the day must realize education is a human right for everybody. So once you get the government's buy-in, organizations like mine and lots of us will come on board to be able to help the government to be able to achieve this purpose. So in my opinion, once the profile has been raised, the government of the day needs to prioritize and put their money where their mouth is. What we're lacking at the moment is that the government of the day does not see it as priority. right? So therefore, organizations like mine are just a drop in the ocean.
So what are you doing in terms of ensuring the government's buying into your intention for the country?
One of the things we've done, we've flown in our volunteers from the UK actually to go around to raise awareness about this. We're actually trying to meet the Minister of Education to raise the awareness for them to have a unit in their department that is responsible for going out there and picking up kids from the school and make sure, from the street, and make sure they get good education. We've got this initiative called Off the Street and Into the Classroom.
Have you met with state governors as well to drive this, because they are closer to the people?
Absolutely. On Thursday, the IA Foundation is going to Ogun State. We're going to schools with learning difficulty to give resources to ensure that the teachers have got resources to be able to teach. And we're trying to engage the Ogun State governor and the special advisor for education in Ogun State. So we're doing that on Thursday. We've been to Nasarawa State. We've been to the IDP in Nasarawa State. We've gone to give resources because the kids in the IDP camp, they're not getting any education. So we've gone there to give them books. We flew some teachers in to actually teach them. What we are trying to do is to make sure every child, irrespective of their background, irrespective of their orientation or their circumstance, they deserve good education.
So how do you ensure consistency and monitoring? Because we see state governments buying into all of these initiatives, but after that day, it ends there. And
that's why I said, if you get the buy-in from the top, it will cascade down very, very easily. If the government prioritizes and make it a priority of each state governor, then we monitor the data, because UN is the one telling us how many out of school.
That's the issue he's trying to point out, monitoring. Ensuring that there is efficiency and there's a sustainability of the intention, that's such that the result which you have envisaged is seen.
Data collation is critical. In the UK, we call out of school children called children NEETs, which is not in education, employment, or training, right? The government monitors that data every day, and they tell you what the figure is, and you'll know whether it's dropping or not. I don't think we have that sort of data in Nigeria.
So is your organization doing that? Is it
That's why we want to work with the Ministry of Education to make sure we are monitoring this. We don't need UN to come and tell us how many children we've got out of school. We should be monitoring that data ourselves and ensuring we have initiatives to bring down that number.
In what way is your organization partnering with the government to ensure that children get back to school?
Yes, that's a very good question. Basically, we need the government's involvement in terms of putting more resources into education. So at the moment, the budget for education for this financial year is 48 billion. That is peanuts by any standard. The government needs to put its money where its mouth is. Put its money where its mouth is. The government needs to make sure education is a certain percentage of the total budget, maybe 5% or 10% of the total budget, to show that we are serious about education. So the government needs to put more resources. Secondly, we had what happened to Leah Sharibu. Now that would discourage many parents who's got female children to send their kids to school. Government needs to ensure the security around school is intensified so that parents feel comfortable sending their kids to school. Thirdly, the legislative arm needs to make sure they legislate that any parent that doesn't send their child to school for whatever reasons might have to face the law. There must be a legislation around that without very good reason, because some parents might have a good reason. Without good reason...
Is there ever a good reason?
There could be. We never can tell, but we need to leave that allowance. But if they don't have a good mitigating circumstance for not sending their kids to school, then they'll have to face the law. I mean, yesterday night I was driving down Third Mainland Bridge. There was a 7-year-old boy trying to sell something to me on the street at 11 a.m. This boy is meant to be in school, right? So the government of the day needs to make sure parents who don't engage with the government to send their kids to school will have to face the penalty. So my association is trying to reinforce that, to raise the awareness and also bring resources from the UK to be able to support the little resources that are available in the schools.
All right, you have been doing this, or you and your association have been doing this for some time now. Talk to us about the challenges that you have encountered in the course of this, especially when it has to do with religion and conflict. How is that undermining efforts?
Good question. When we went to Nasarawa State, to the IDP camp, I mean, getting to that camp alone, we had to get lots of security guards because it was very, very risky. People said we were very brave to do it, but we have to do what we have to do. So it was very difficult getting into the camp. And when we even got into the camp, some of the things we brought for the kids to study and food and things we brought, we understand that the security guards in the camp actually took it for themselves. We're using it for themselves. So I'm like thinking, what's going on here? We are coming to bring resources, you are taking the resources away. So there must be a mechanism in place to make sure any resources that is being brought for these kids in IDP or wherever actually get used by those kids. And if any officer abuses their office, then there should obviously be a penalty for that, basically. So as a woman also, when I go out there campaigning and trying to ensure that people send their kids to school, again, it's about poverty, the family hasn't got money. So what we are saying is, okay, we will go to the UK, raise the fund, bring the money in, and we'll literally pick the kids off the street and put them in schools and actually pay for their education. Now, at the moment, we are running a pilot of that. As I said, on Thursday, we are going to Ogun State. We're going to be paying for some JAM forms and WAEC forms and things like that. So the little bit we can do, we will do, but it is not enough. We need more foundations like the IA Foundation to be able to do this, but we need to get the buy-in of the government.
And I think that is where Olashubumi Aina comes in now. You are also ensuring efforts at helping a lot of persons, not just those out of school, but empowering people, basically. And she has talked about the challenges she has met, especially when it comes to IDPs and all. Talk to us about the challenges you have also faced while trying to help out or empower people.
Yeah, we face challenges every time. I give you an example. We started a school at Ikare community. We were responding to the education needs of children from Nigeria, children from Togo, Benin Republic. And usually it's like that's the only free school in that area.
Really?
We had to do that. The reason why we had to do that was because children had to travel with the boat to the other side where there's free education. 100 naira, I think it's 100 naira to and 100 naira fro. And this is a community that is impoverished. How would they be able to afford 200 per child to go to school every day? They don't even have enough money to feed themselves. So a lot of them will keep their kids at home. So as a result of that, we felt that there was a need to actually bring school to them. And in bringing school to them, we needed to provide for everything that is required. Because, so it's a challenge because we now had to go to the community leaders that provide a space for us where we can start helping these children. The missionaries there have been very, very helpful in this regard, and we have provided free education to the kids in that community, free as in free. We are not asking for anybody's money. And I must tell you that we face challenges of finance in providing wages for the teachers and resources. We bring resources from the UK to assist these children. There are so many other projects that we do that responds to needs in other areas. Example, we work with the Nigerian federal prisons. That's we don't call it prison, we call it both-style corrective facilities. We've got 3 in Nigeria, one in Kaduna, one in Kwara, and one in Abeokuta. We actively work in Abeokuta and Kwara, but more in Abeokuta. Even as I speak, because of our impact in the prison now, the official prison uniform is the light-up shirt.
Okay, so as looking at the school now, how many students are there do you have now enrolled, and how impactful has that free education been in that community?
Well, it's quite impactful because there is a recycling of poverty in that environment because children are not going to school. Now that we now have brought it to their doorstep, so everybody wants to bring their kids because it doesn't cost them anything. But at the end of the day, it's making impact. Even parents are now coming for parents' meeting, and we are getting to create more awareness on the essence of education. They are even beginning to see it. You get what I mean? So these are some of the impact that we have been able to make, and then hopefully we intend to make more impact. We had to start from the scratch. We didn't want to start admitting from the, we just
talking about impact, now I'll come to you, Ronke. What would you say has been the level of impact, and especially that can be measured by the level of support you have gotten so far? Talk to us about that aspect.
At the moment, it's like a one-way street.
Really?
Because the government is not engaging with us. So what we are doing, we are just...
How about other NGOs?
At the moment, we haven't got much NGOs we're partnering up because, as I said, we're based in the UK, so we are just doing our own thing. But what we want to do is to engage with the government of the day. We want to send a strong signal to the government of the day that if you don't prioritize this, we would prioritize it because it's very, very important. Because the old sage, late Obafemi Awolowo, did say, the children of the poor people that you do not educate now would not let your children sleep at night. And that's what's happening now. Because all this insurgency is also linked to illiteracy, because they don't have anything to do, they're not going to school. So the mind of an idle man is a workshop for the devil. So in my opinion, ensuring everyone gets good education is the silver bullet to solve most of Nigerian problems, because at the moment security is a big issue. If you try to educate these people, especially the Almajeris, yeah, then they would not resort to this sort of thing. So we really need the government of the day to engage with us. We will want to meet with the Minister of Finance, Minister of Education, we want to meet with the Ogun State Commissioner for Education. We want to work together to make sure we get those kids off the streets and into the classroom. That is where they belong.
All right, Ronke Adeagbo, thank you for your time, and we wish you all the best in your endeavor.
You're welcome.
Olashubumi Iginla, I know we have to leave it here now, but thank you for coming on TVC Breakfast, and wish you all the best in your endeavor as well.
Thank you.